This is All India Radio. Tonight we have an interview with Dr. A.V. Srinivasan, visiting professor at the Indian Institute of Science and an expert on aeronautical engineering. He is interviewed by S. Jayaraman.
Dr. Amrutur V. Srinivasan went to US for studies and stayed there to pursue his professional career, like many other Indians do today. The novelty in this, he went to USA 40 years back when few had the vision. It was an alien nation then, and too few were able to reach there. The novelty also is he has balanced his life, pursuing advanced technologies at one hand and retaining a strong spiritual background on the other hand. While he lectured in University of Iowa, University of Florida, and in many other places in the field of applied mechanics, he also taught Sanskrit in Wesleyan University and Epics of India in the History Department at University of Connecticut. While he was the senior author of Smart Structures, Analysis and Design published by Cambridge University Press, he was also the author of Yaksha Prashna, a Hindu primer based on the lectures of Mahabharata. A successful US citizen with deep concern about India, a conservative South Indian with a global outlook, a scientist with a strong spiritual moorings. Welcome to this program, Dr. Srinivasan.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here.
I would like to travel with you down in the memory lane.
Okay.
How it started, how did you start to go to US, when this thought started in your mind?
Some friends of us who were also engineering degree holders decided to go abroad, and I thought it was a great opportunity to try and do that. And then an opportunity opened up. I, in fact, even got a passage scholarship to go to the United States in those days. That was also something that was very desirable, and an opportunity to do some research at the University of Iowa.
What is the field you were working there?
The field can be described properly as applied mechanics, so that deals with materials, stresses, strains, vibrations. By and large, I have specialized in the field of vibrations. Most of my professional experience subsequent to that has been in that field. I worked for a jet engine manufacturer known as Pratt & Whitney, working mostly on vibration problems in jet engines. That is my principal field.
What is smart structures you were mentioning?
Well, smart structures is a sort of a new and fast developing area where we look at any structure, anything from a building to a bridge to an aircraft wing to even a musical instrument. Basically, a smart structure is able to sense any change that is taking place in it, whether it is strain, temperature, or pressure, and do an online diagnosis and take whatever action is necessary to preserve what we call as the structural integrity. So that whole, what you might call as a closed loop smartness. But there is also another aspect to it called open loop smartness, which brings us to this field of biomimetics, where you look at structures in nature. For example, if you look at a seashell, seashell is really 95% calcium carbonate, which is like a piece of chalk, but yet you know that you cannot break it easily. So the question is, how does the animal take large amount of very brittle material such as calcium carbonate and puts it together to develop develop a structure which is so strong and tough. So we are looking at, the scientists are looking at natural structures like that to learn the strategies adopted by nature to build its own structures. So that also becomes part of the smart structures field.
Is there any work being done in India on biomimetics?
As far as I know, there is no real active program, but it might pick up very soon.
Dr. Srinivasan, you have been there 40 years, had opportunity to do research in various advanced fields. Were you able to offer that knowledge to India, or India, do you see an opportunity for that?
Well, there is quite a bit of, I would say, major research programs in a variety of fields, including, of course, aerospace engineering. So to a large extent, our contacts with Indian scientists, my colleagues, have been through publications. Whenever I have come here to visit, whether it is Bangalore or Delhi or other parts of India, I have always had an opportunity to go and speak to, for example, audiences in the IITs and the institute and so forth. So there has been a continuing professional contact. But I think India has made a lot of progress. In fact, I could see even in the past 6 years, major steps have occurred. Bangalore, for example, to me spells prosperity. You can see it. Clearly, I can go to the other extreme and say LCA, for example, is a great, technologically great step forward. Some of the people who have worked on it are brilliant people. They have done a wonderful job. Of course, it has taken a long time, but that's the way it is with high technology products.
Indigenous is the underlying word.
Absolutely.
You were a student here, you were a teacher there, and you were a student there and you were a teacher here also. What kind of a teacher capabilities and students' capability you are finding in India at this point?
Well, I think that system has more or less remained the same as I was when I was here. So the students, remember the cultural background plays a very important role as to how a student looks at a teacher, how a teacher looks at a student. So that difference is essentially intact, I should say. But by and large, in my experience in teaching at the institute this past semester, I have found the students to be very hardworking, very conscientious. They want to know a great deal of detail. They realize that I have come from abroad, and therefore they look upon me as a source for additional information. So that has been very satisfying. I think they are doing well. I am very pleased to say that I have met so many bright young people. I think it bodes well for the country.
But then there is one always the flip side of it, that people like you with a lot of knowledge go there and settle down. How India could benefit from your knowledge?
Well, I think what is happening now is an example of how that could happen. I mean, the people here invited me to come and stay for a while. That happens. Obviously, we would like to see that kind of thing happening more often. Not just me, but many scientists and engineers and people of that background abroad who could come here, stay here for a while. And it's not. It is actually feasible, really. If people have the will, I think it can be done.
You were mentioning about the cultural background. I'm sure in one of the resume I read about you, it says that you have been a priest there, you have conducted Hindu marriages and all. Where the background comes from?
Actually, it goes back to the 70s. You see, most of us went in the 60s as students, and we had only one goal: get a degree or two and come back, and that never happened. Gradually, I think by about the 70s, people realized that we're not going to go back. And then, of course, you marry, have children. Suddenly, it hits you that what about the heritage? What about how will the children be in the next generation? How would their children be? So there was this sudden realization, if you like, and therefore we needed to do something. There wasn't a very clear definition of what it is. And most societies have done this. So the very first thing people thought of was to say, let us have a prayer service once a month, and they sort of looked upon me to lead that. The beginning of it was just to provide some heritage for our children. Now we have a permanent institution where people can come and enjoy worshiping and socializing with people.
How did you get into publishing some interesting write-ups on various Sanskrit, particularly Mahabharata?
Well, that's right. You see, Yaksha Prashna episode is an absolutely fascinating episode. I'm certain many of our listeners would have read about it. So when I was lecturing on that, I could see the audience, which consisted of physicians, engineers, and scientists, getting truly excited about it. See, the Mahabharata has a wonderful grip on us. I mean, that's not my discovery. All great writers before me, and I'm sure later would discover the same thing. And so when I saw that, and when my friends insisted that I write it, I wrote this book. But that is the opportunity that we got many, many years ago to bring out that book. But it was all in English. And 15 years later, here we are in Bangalore putting the Devanagari, and there is encouragement for us to put in other languages too. So that's kind of briefly the background of that book.
You are a scientist. Does this spiritual mooring helps you, or it's a kind of a millstone around your neck kind of thing?
Well, it is not at all a millstone. I'm pleased to say, in fact, it is perhaps exactly the opposite. It makes your life whole, in a sense, because we are first of all human beings, and then all the other things that come that emphasize your background, your heritage, your the way you were brought up, your family values, the value system of the country, the culture, and all of that. that is always there anyhow, no matter who you are, no matter what your position or status in life is, the basic human being, those aspects are there anyhow. And in any case, I would say it was really my fortune that I had this opportunity to serve our community there. And as a result of that, I must say I perhaps gained more in terms of making my life whole. And so I do not consider that as a burden at all. In fact, to me, I think that sort of thing has really provided me some sort of peace of mind, if you like.
Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivasan. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you very much. My best wishes to your listeners.
Thank you.
That was an interview with Dr. A.V. Srinivasan, visiting professor at the Indian Institute of Science and an expert on aeronautical engineering. He was interviewed by S. Jayaraman. This broadcast came to you from the studios of All India Radio, Bangalore.